Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Episode 26, Interview with Tommy Davis, Part 1.
Anyways, sorry. I wanted to prompt the next question because you were talking about the pursuit, and we got to this point in the story where it's like, and then I started my own business, and then the inspiration for dog training is there. Who were the people who influenced you that said, like, I want to train? Who did that?
Yeah. So the transition, I think the important thing, and the question I get a lot of times is, what was the transition from dog walking to training? Because I know that there's a lot of dog walkers that have personally messaged me and said, hey, you've inspired me to become a trainer. I want to know your transition, how you transitioned. What was the call? What was the email? What was that transition? Because I think that lends each other. They're very close. Working. So all of the dogs that I worked with could not go to daycares. They were mean, they were aggressive, they were nasty to each other, which is how I found out about tools, which is another story. The organic tool usage that I use was collected off of the data of 30 dogs a day for 6 years, Monday through Sunday, of like, this works, this doesn't. Politics, what?
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with.
I'm trying to get these dogs not to pull me,
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, like by 22, my back was messed up because of the amount of dogs that weren't under control. So that's a different story about organic. Even the companies that I work with now started with me regardless of if they know or not, So anyway, so the transition was really like, I was the dog guy. I was walking, like the pictures you guys see all over, like, every town has that dog person, I think, or something like that. Like you see the guy walking with, X amount of dogs, and I was that guy. And so I remember just this one call about Xena. The dog's name is Xena, and they said, hey, I know you don't really offer training, but is this something you can help me with? And it was that one call. I was like, and I was very, 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 very like insecure about it. I said, I'm not a trainer. Like I can't, like I don't train, but I'm sure I can help you. So here's how my career began with behavior. She's like, well, it's not really training. She's just doing these weird things. And I was like, weird things? What do you mean? Well, she's cowering when X, Y, and Z comes in, or she's doing, so it was behavioral. And I said, oh yeah, definitely. I said, let me come over for a day and I won't charge you anything and I'll just watch and see what, and I told her, and she goes, and again, like I want to be transparent because I think that it's valuable. And so she said, she goes, I just hired 2 other trainers that both have accumulation of over 30 years of experience together. And the information that you just provided was more informative and made more sense than both of those other trainers. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know what to say. I was like, okay, well, I'm still not a trainer. So like, I said, you should just try doing these things instead. And that's where it clicked. So then that one phone call led to another, and then another. And then pretty soon I remember calling my dad, and I was pacing, and I'm like walking around I'm like, Dad, these people keep calling me about training, but I don't know what to tell them because I'm not a trainer. And I said, but I didn't know anything about training. Like I didn't care about it. I just like, I thought what I was doing was kind of training. It was all behavior. It was all relationships. So it was very organic. So I said, but Dad, there's a loophole. I said, I'm not really training them. I'm just teaching them how to like, how to have a better life with their dog, right? So I'm like, what? I'm thinking
dog
like
training, right?
Right. So I'm not sit, not stay, not come. I'm just like, and my dad's like, yeah. You're kind of educating them. You're educating them, right? I'm like, yeah, like that's all I'm doing is I'm consulting, right? So I'm consulting, right? So first of all, I'll talk about the America's Canine Educator brand because I know I personally think that, I'm self-conscious about that sometimes, but that's kind of how like things started rolling. Awesome. As I was like, okay, I'm an educator. So when people would call and email, say, hey, I'm not a dog trainer, just so you know, I'm not going to teach your dog. I can help with the basics, but it's not my thing. Right. I'm going to help you with these problems the behavioral problems. And I've never watched a dog trainer. I've never seen a dog training session in my entire life. Didn't know anything. I just knew that I had insane instincts. Like I will admit that. Like my instincts were right on. And so that's where it started for me.
I would actually go say like those instincts you learned from the time you were a kid.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like as much as like people always ask like, oh, Brent, you have a gift, and I'm like, this isn't a gift. Like I worked on a ranch. I had a bunch of dogs, but then I worked on a ranch from age 12 to 17, and horses try to kick your ass. You know, sheep will try and goats will try and ram you. Like you learn to pay attention to shit, and it just becomes another language that you've learned.
You know what?
So I think that's the beautiful part.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because I think that one thing that you were talking about that I really resonate with too is like when you learn how to read people. I don't know if it's a function, because my parents divorced young too. I don't know if it's a function of just kind of being two different kids, like when you're at mom's house versus dad's house, and you notice that they want different things out of you or whatever the case. Because my parents divorced and my dad lived in Mexico, so I'm like back and forth from California to so like the world is different, you know, and And at that time, Mexico is not what it is today. Like it was still like pretty third world, even like 10, 15 years ago. So I think you learn then how to read the other people, because you're like, like I get that, and I'm one of you and everything, but like I'm not at the same time. And then after being in Mexico for 3 months,
code switching.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like, you're always behind. I would live my life in California. I always went to school in America, but back in the day, remember tracks for school? So they'd be like A track, B track, and then you'd be off for like a few months. So I'd go to Mexico for like a few months at a time. And when you get there, I am an American ass kid who has to readjust. I know my Spanish, but beyond that, my mannerism and all that stuff just doesn't fit. And then by the time 3 months are up, I go back home and I am like a full on Mexican kid. Like again, I have to, I'm always behind. I have to relearn. And by the time I learn, I'm back, And so it was like, you learn the insights. I think one of my favorite personal traits in myself as a dog trainer today, I'm confident and happy with my dog knowledge. I'm very confident and happy with my like technique and all that, especially today, because I still make it a huge point to learn and continue to grow. But I think I've always had that knack of reading people. And like when you read the dog's behavior, my favorite thing is like, okay, the dog did X. What was the person's response to the dog doing X? And that, let's call that Y. And then like, and then we'll throw layers onto things. And I'm like, so based on the dog doing this, and then you responding to that, I can see the bottleneck right there. And then you start diving in from there. And then the obedience comes after.
Right.
Correct.
Right. No, I love that, man. That's a cool transition into, or for Tommy, that was a cool transition into dog training. So behavior started becoming kind of your focus.
Yeah.
Like I'm a behavior specialist. Like I can teach you how to manipulate behavior, but not necessarily through the platform of obedience. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, who were some mentors? Who were some people you looked up to? Right? Who were some people that you pulled from?
So let me. I want to tell this story because it leads into this. It's very organic and like it really. I think for me, it's like I want at least you guys to know this story. Yeah. If other people are listening, great. But I was on a walk with my so fast forward, right? Okay, all that happened with my dog. I started doing some dog training on the side, but I was still a dog walker. It wasn't because I was charging like $20 a session for dog training.
Right.
I felt insecure about it. I'm like, I'm not charging you. I'm not a dog trainer. I don't know, because I see these other places with buildings and stuff like that. So, and I tried locally. I tried to reach out to local people. Walking in, I said, "Hey, my name's Tom. I'm a dog walker." Get a lot of people interested in training. I'm trying to help them out. Is there any way I can like watch? Because I feel self-conscious. I'm not good. I don't feel like I'm good enough. I was like, I want to know more about things, vocabulary, leashes. I want to know more because I'm obsessed with that type of stuff. Of like, if I'm into something, I'm all in.
Right.
But if I'm not, I'm not. I could care less. So nobody would work with me. They're like, nope, young kid. I've seen you on a billboard before. I've seen the paper. Like, nope, not going to work with you. Like, oh, okay, whatever. I think that that's just how it is. It's just like they're not accepting to new things. Yeah. It's scary. It's maybe they didn't have time. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? I don't care either. But couldn't get in. So I remember I got another Saint Bernard. His name is Thompson. He's still alive as well. He's 11 years old. Yep, and he's around here too. And so I remember I was on a walk, and I was there on the walk. I bought my isn't that a crazy story? I got my my client's dog on the left, which the dog's name is Atra. It was Latin for shadow. Apparently, it was an Australian Shepherd. And then there's this train track you go over to get to the trail. So my dog is off leash because he's it's just how I never put leashes on my own personal dogs ever. They were always just free range, if you will. And, I was irresponsible. Like they would run away and I'd say, come, and they maybe come back. Maybe they wouldn't. Right. But yeah. Or they'd come back the next day and I'd be like, what's up? Like very, very like, figure it out. But also like, I don't care. You're an animal. I respect that too. So go play in the mud for 2 days and come back when you're hungry. So anyway, I walked over the train tracks with Atra. This is in the summer. I had sandals on. I look to my right. I'm like, Thompson, let's go. And he's in the middle of the train tracks. And he was probably 2 at the time, young-ish. And I remember he looks at me and he play bows.
Oh, no.
And I'm like,
no.
We're not doing this. We're not doing this. So I look at him and I look to my left and I see this big light. And I'm like, yeah. And then it's like, wham. No. And I'm like, okay, we're not doing this either. I'm like, this is not happening, right? So I look at Atra and he's like, the hell? So I go, and I grit my teeth. I go, let's go. And he just runs. He just sprints on the track because the track's big. It's like a commercial train track. It's big. So I kind of blacked out. But so here I am. I have my sandals on. I have my client's dog. I don't want to let my client's dog go because I'm next to a busy road as well. Never in my wildest dreams could I have put this scenario together ever. Not even in
a movie script, bro.
So in the train tracks, there's these big planks, right? They're like probably a foot like this. And then there's these huge boulders in between, these rocks. So I just start running. So I'm running on this train track, right, after Thompson. And he's this 2-year-old St. Bernard, so he's not slow. And I'm chasing him. And I got the dog, and the way the train tracks are, they're built up on like a beat, like on a ridge this. So it's not flat. So he's on the side, Atra, and I'm running, and then I can just hear this train getting closer, and I can hear it in the back of my head, wah, wah, like this, and I'm like, oh! So I'm chasing my dog, right? And I turn around and I can see this light super close. No. And that's where I kind of blacked out. I had 2 decisions to make, right? I either watch my new St. Bernard get pulverized by this train, or I risk my own life and his life. Right. And so I jumped, took him, barrel rolled off, kicked off the brim, and I had Atra here freaking out. Right. And Thompson, because I'm gripping him as tight as I can, is trying to bite me because I'm death gripping his haunches,
you don't want to let him go. He'll go back for the train.
Don't want to let him go because there's this train 6 inches in front of my face. It was like a freaking movie. I can't make this shit up. I swear to God. So I stop, and I'm like, I swear it is like, there's some things that happen during your life as a human that you will never forget. Right. And some of the things that you do is so primal and instinctual that you're like, why am I even doing this? And I'm looking at my legs. I'm making sure that I still have everything. Right. Swear. It's like, and it's scary to even think about that my brain thought to do that, but it was like a defense mechanism. So I'm looking at my feet and I'm looking at my legs and I'm no blood. I'm like, what? So very traumatic. My heart is boom, pounding out of my chest. Right. Wow. So this train but the whole time the train was trying to stop because it was going. So it's screeching, so it's loud as hell. So eventually I get up, I take both dogs, I can't breathe. I'm literally still in awe looking at myself. And I remember walking back to the house and I hear, hey. And I turn around, and it's 2 guys with clipboards. And they must have been the drivers of the train or conductors. And they said, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm still in awe. I'm like, I don't know. And I'm looking at myself and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good. And they're like, okay, well, just so you know, we have a cow pusher in the front of our train, and you have about 6 inches from the time that we can't see anything in front of that cow pusher before it hits the thing that's in front of us. And you were in that 6 inches.
No.
And you just got really lucky. And I was like, yeah, add it to the list. I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, thank you guys for stopping. It was bad, like super close to dying, like super close. And I always thought, like, how could anybody get hit by a train?
Right.
The hell? It's a train.
Right. Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
Dude, so that happened. So I want to explain, like, this is how I got into dog training. So, and this is how I got into remote collars. So then I Googled off-leash dog training in my area. And I ended up finding this lady. Her name is Janine Lazarus. She's based in West Virginia. Her dog training company is called Good Lad Dog Training.
Okay.
She's from England, so Good Lad Dog Training.
Lad, yeah.
Yep. So she was actually a remote collar trainer in Saratoga Springs, where I'm from, in New York. And I just reached out to her and I said, "Hey, I'm a dog walker. My dog almost just killed me." She thought that was hilarious because she just did. You know, she's funny like that.
It's funny because it worked out. That's why it's funny.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I have my legs, so yeah. So anyway, so that's how I got into it, man. As I just said, can you please? I was like, I'd be more than happy to shadow you to, you know. And so she had DOGTRA, right? This was many years ago, and she goes, I want to show you something. So she goes, first of all, your dog's 150 pounds. You should never be walking him on a flat collar. I said, you're right. He's a pain in the ass. He won't stop, you know, he won't stop pulling, which is why I never really put him on a leash. Right. So then she said, well, here's a prong collar. I said, oh, sweet. This thing's awesome. Yeah. Right. And she goes, and then because of that train thing, let's talk about remote collars. I said, what is it? She goes, it's just an ability to communicate off leash. And I said, wow, this is great. So that's really, and shout out to Janine, because she was the person who started my whole career in dog training for sure. Yeah, so you can find her on Instagram. She's super cool. She's funny. She's not like super tech savvy, but she's awesome.
What's her Instagram for the audience so they can follow her?
I think it's at Good Lad Dog Training. If you just search Good Lad Dog Training. Her name's Janine. Yeah.